And now on Congleton Radio, it's Tim Taylor with Tim's Talking.
Yes, it is Tim's Talking time again. And for this occasion, I have two Tory politicians, and you can all stop booing at home because you know they're going through a rough time at the moment. But these are two of our local members of the Conservative Party, David Brown and Jack Boyce. I'll just give you a bit of background on the two people who are joining me for this show. David Brown has been Congleton's town mayor 3 times and first became a councillor in 1999. He represents East Ward on Congleton Town Council and Cheshire East Council, and his many responsibilities include the fire service, economy, finance, licensing and planning. It's his role as chairman of Congleton in Bloom which possibly gets him the most publicity because he's a familiar figure to a small army of wonderful volunteers, streetscape people whose unsung and unpaid work do so much to make our town so beautiful in fact, that last month Congleton were one of only 4 towns in Britain who were awarded a gold medal in the large town category at the Royal Horticultural Society Britain in Bloom finals. That's a big show. This was Congleton in Bloom's 4th just gold medal at national level, to add to an incredible number of 14 golds totted up over the years in the North West Awards. David's a keen gardener when his council duties allow, and before retiring he was sales director at Fujitsu for 27 years. Sitting across the table from him in our interview studio is Jack Boyce, who's the Vice Chair of Congleton Town Council, he's the Vice Chair of Congleton Town Conservatives, and he's held party roles at Westminster level between 2013 and 2018, and that includes working for a Cabinet Minister. Jack's an experienced on-the-ground and a digital campaigner who has run hundreds of successful political campaigns. His day job is as an Associate Director at Lexington, where he works nationally with local authorities and private industry on development projects, including town investment and regeneration. Now, unlike David, who's been doing this council a lot for a long time, Jack is standing for election for the first time in May to Cheshire East Council and Congleton Town Council. And if he's elected, he will use his experience of working with local authorities around the country to make sure our town of Congleton is equipped to cope with its proposed growth and whatever the future holds us. Now, that information about Jack being so involved in planning and communities and all that sort of area leads us on to the proposed market quarter in Congleton, which is really at a very early stage, the complete overhaul of Mill Street and Princess Street. But Jack has gone on record as saying that the way the Cheshire East Council are approaching this, and of course Cheshire East Council led by Independents and Labour, is likely to, there's a serious danger of scaring off investment. Now, Jack, what was your reasoning for that? What made you say that?
So Cheshire East Council spent a significant amount of money producing town vitality plans, and that dictates where they think the investment should go and where public realm should be improved and all things like that. And in isolation, that is generally a good thing. We should be considering what's there for the future of our town centres, and post-COVID and with the increase of internet shopping, town centres are and will be significantly different to what they were 10, 15, 20 years ago. That's particularly important for Congleton, who's grown massively in size. It's a different prospect, we should be thinking about it. My concern is we've had these really impressive, albeit quite early proposals for how to regenerate the town with genuine private investment coming into it that are completely at odds with the town centre vitality report. And my concern is not necessarily that their actions will scare away investment in their own right. My concern is there's one, spending money where it's not warranted when private industry is identifying what's needed.
For example?
Market quarter.
Right, yeah.
And two, they're quite simply just not outward facing enough to see what's actually going on in the ground. And that's always going to be a problem when you've got quite a disparate group all vying for their own hobby horses running a council.
So what do you want to happen that isn't happening?
I think for me the important bit is to look at actual delivery. And so if we look at the kind of town growth that's gone on in Congleton, now I live in a new build house in Congleton. To a lot of Congletonians, I'm a newcomer, I've been here 5 years. Well, we're seeing the growth, we're seeing the houses being built, but we're not seeing the delivery of the infrastructure that comes alongside it, primarily because Labour and Independents aren't running the council properly and making sure those Section 106 payments, which is effectively the money that developers put aside to deliver the infrastructure.
Surgeries and stuff.
Surgeries, roads, whatever, that comes along, parks, all that sort of thing, that comes along with, that should come along with development, is sat in a bank account somewhere not doing anything because the council aren't working appropriately and properly. And it's things like that, it's town centre vitality plans coming in a different direction, and it's because it's all inward facing, it's not looking at what needs to be delivered on the ground, and it's all theoretical stuff.
Can I bring Dave in at this point? Your council experience goes back
a few years,
almost a quarter of a century, which is a great thing because taking on board what Jack's just said and loading onto that your experience of getting legislation through, which is what matters to all of us, how do you see this panning out in the long run and what needs to be done to make it work well?
I think with, I'm not going to mention any names because I don't think I'm allowed to, but there's a local entrepreneur, builder and developer, who has done work in Congleton before. I think he was involved in the development of Riverside Mill when that was put up, and he's bought some property off Scarborough. Who, for people who've been around in Congleton a lot longer than me, because I'm still a newcomer even after 35 years, you know that we've seen different schemes come up, hotel schemes, supermarket schemes, everything for this. The discussions and presentation they give to a couple of the councillors the other week would suggest that they're going to redevelop down at the back where the old co-op was. They've actually started knocking buildings down now, and they're going to build some things there. So my plea for Cheshire East to be get actively involved with this guy, because I think he'll make the market area far more attractive. There obviously needs to be something done with the market. We've been saying it for years, and you know, nothing gets done because it all takes investment. I think the last time we got investment in Congleton was when the Conservatives were in power, when we got the pedestrianisation done in the centre of town, and the money was set aside for the leisure centre, which unfortunately seems to be taking forever to complete. And also the link road. So we got a fair amount of attention in those days. It was my privilege for 2 years to be deputy leader there. So you know, that's quite a very personal thing to me. I think it's a shame we've now de-pedestrianised the Bridge Street. I think that's absolutely disgraceful for just old people and disabled people, infirm people, and I class me in that group, right? Won't come into the town centre now because of bikes running up and down, and you know, they can't hear them. And especially with now we've got this cafe culture in town. I think that decision they made this year, if they'd have consulted with the townspeople of Congleton, I think they all would have said, apart from the cycling enthusiasts, and I used to be a cycling champion for Cheshire East, so I'm nothing against cyclists, but I think to just walk 100 yards through the centre of town, so that people would feel safe is something we should do. But the Market Square centre, the guy who's bought the site surrounding the Market Square, because the Market Square is owned by Cheshire East Council, he will redevelop and gradually build. And he won't be one day you'll just see a new supermarket going up. He's trying to reclaim the buildings and do as much as he can. And I just encourage anybody who, when it comes out for consultation on what it's going to look like, for the townspeople to get involved, right? We don't want to leave it to people that are primarily Aldergate, Wimslow and Crewe actually deciding the fate of our town in Congleton. It should be local people to decide.
I think you've come in on much the same thing, Jack. You're inviting local townspeople to get active with this in any way they can.
Yeah, I am, and I think, obviously, I don't think it's best practice to disagree with the interviewer, Tim, but I hope you'll bear with me. So you said what people want to see is legislation, and I completely disagree with what people want to see.
I didn't say what people want to see.
You said that we need to deliver legislation just before.
No, I was purely asking David about how you will get the legislation to make it happen.
Fine, but my statement was, well, actually, people want to see things get done.
Exactly,
and that's the really important.
Yeah,
that's the really important point for me. It's delivering things. It's delivering things with people instead of to people, to a community. Yeah. It's being done with them, and I think this comes down to that kind of outward-looking aspect again. It's so focused on internal politics, if we say with a small p, or internal discussions, if we want to kind of take it outside of that arena. We're not looking outside for where people are delivering national leading recycling schemes, for example. The irony of it is one of the recycling schemes that's leading the way is in Derbyshire, which borders Cheshire.
Yes.
And it's seeing the experience through my job that I see across the country, lots of examples where people do things badly, but also where they do it very well. And I'd like to bring that experience to see where we can apply those different things in Cheshire East.
So to draw attention to this particular segment of the interview, out there in the public, you, the Conservative, Labour Independent, the Town Council, Cheshire East Council, everybody concerned, hopefully what your plea is, make sure the public are involved and get out to them every link they need to link on, every website they need to go to, and just keep people informed of how to get involved in this. What should be an exciting new development for Congleton Town, surely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm sure.
Yeah, and I think
that's the message that comes out from there, isn't
there's
it?
one thing about Congleton people: when they get their teeth into something, they do it with a vengeance. I can say that quite clearly and honestly, as being chair of Congleton in Bloom for 10 years, because the amount of people that keep turning out, a lot of them, year after year after year.
In hundreds.
We had over, I think it was 17,500 volunteer hours last year. Which is absolutely phenomenal. So don't let anybody say Congleton people don't care, and they don't care about their environment and how the town looks, because they do, and that's why so many people come out and support that initiative. So and that's down to Congleton people. It's not down to me as chairman of the committee. Yes, we choose a few flowers, but other people do all the hard work, and that's what it's all about. So it's a matter of getting that passion involved on regenerating this part of the town and getting people bought into it, not have their hopes dashed. I've been around long enough to see Scarborough put a bid in to put a hotel up there, and then he got sold after somebody else, and they wanted to build a new Morrison's supermarket, and the timing was all wrong, and it's a bit like when we were going to build a big medical centre in the centre of town. That all went to pot. So it seems anything that we want to do that's going to cost millions and millions of pounds hasn't been done for the last 30 years.
David, can I cite for an example there, the Leisure Centre? Now, this is the start of the second series of Tim's Talk-In. The last show in the first series featured Susie Akers-Smith and a wannabe councillor, Mark Edwardson, the ex-BBC TV and radio presenter. And the way the last series ended was with Susie saying that when so many Conservatives lost their seats at the last town council elections. That was good for Congleton because Conservatives lost their seats. Conservatives always like a fight. They were the toxic ones. This was in reference to the leisure centre, where you say that the Lib Dems and or Susie particularly has led the problems. She says you have.
I could be quite specific.
Just hang on, Dave. Just one last point there. And she said, why should the Conservatives turn on the independents when Andrew Colker is the chairman of Everybody Health and Leisure, and he's a Conservative chairman of Everybody Health and Leisure. So by criticising them, you're criticising yourselves. That was Susie's point.
Well, I think she's taken it a bit out of context. I think you'll probably find that Susie is on the board.
Oh yeah, it's a pro bono role she has.
And actually, I remember when the funding went through, because I was the portfolio holder at the time, to build a leisure centre. We got it all set up to build it. Then the factious, the argumentative Conservative was Susie Akers-Smith, who wanted a 50-metre pool in Congleton, you know, an Olympic standard pool, and was demanding that we had splash courts, and the plans didn't have that in. So the development slipped by 2.5 years. And the reason we've ended up in now, what was originally a £7 million project, has now gone to 13 million with inflation and everything else that's on it. So yes, some Conservatives did argue, but everybody else, I think more or less to a man on the council, wanted the plans to go ahead as they were, but they got delayed because Susie caused a bit of a stink about it. And if you think about how many 50-metre national length swimming pools there are in the UK, you know, we didn't even build one at Crewe. And that's a massive lifestyle centre project that went on there, which
cost the same amount. Will cost the same amount as the Congleton Leisure Centre.
Congleton will now cost as much as Crewe, because of the delays. And there have been other complications. I'm not going to go at Cheshire East about that because they did find some materials on the site that had to be cleared and various things that go along. And we've had COVID, you know, that hasn't helped. So I'm not going to go about it. But when she said the Conservatives, the council consisted of 20 Conservatives. We were all mates. We were all in the same party. Yes, people are going to have different opinions. People always have different opinions. That's how it should be. Yeah. But at the end of the day, if you've got a consensus, democracy. I remember the very first council meeting I went to, and I said, I don't really like this idea, and they tried to convince me to vote for it. And I said, no, I'm not. From what I can see, I don't approve. Why don't you just have a vote? If you have a vote, and it's 19-1, I've got to buy into it, because that's what democracy is all about, and that's what it should be.
Well, I really like that, because I remember I listened to the podcast about the kind of perfect example of independence, having your cake and eat it, and the line was really, well, Conservatives have their laws set down to them on high, and they don't kind of get a choice. No, for me, it's just nonsense. I mean, the Conservatives are the most successful political party in the world not because everything they say is bang on the money. It's because they're a broad church, and actually, the vast array of different opinions is what makes generally the party come to a good one. And do I agree with everything that every candidate says? No, I don't agree with everything every Conservative says at all.
Okay, Jack, take that on board. But a lovely lady from Asbury, Liz Wardlaw, who I think even Labour and Independent Lib Dems have a job finding fault with Liz. But
I'm sure they'll try.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll try. I mean, I mean, she is standing she's hoping to become an MP for Chester. December won the vote. Wow, at a time like this, she's standing to become a Tory MP. You say you like difference of opinions. Well, we all like democracy and to express our opinions, but it seems the Conservatives have gone a little bit far with that at the moment in what's going on at Westminster, surely.
I think it's a slightly different situation in Chester because the by-election has been called as a result of I'm not sure what the legal
Labour guy.
Sexual misconduct, is that the term?
He's accused of something. Yes.
Is that the terminology?
He resigned.
Yeah, he resigned over it. So,
also, I'll rephrase the question. Does she stand a chance at a time when it seems that there's an anti-Tory wave at the moment?
I think Liz put it great when I spoke to her at the weekend, where you don't catch a fish unless you put your rod in the water.
Right,
she's fighting hard for it. I think in the week when Ask Her to Stand has been massive in terms of publicity. It's great that we've got more female candidates. I will say that there's another by-election coming in Trafford. A good friend of mine standing in that as well. Another someone else who'd make a fantastic MP who happens to be female. And actually Liz as well is another good example of someone who's going to offer real life experience. She's a nurse, came out of retirement during COVID to do the vaccinations. She's a wonderful person to point to and say that's why one of the reasons why I'm proud to be Conservative. And if she doesn't win, then that'll be a shame for Liz, but it'll be a shame for Chester as well.
Yeah.
I concur with that. I spoke to Liz the other day, and I said, "How are you doing?" And she said, "Well, my feet are hurting," and she's going around knocking on doors and getting comments back. Some people saying they want Boris back and one thing and another. Chester's always been a Labour stronghold. For her to win, if she wins, it would be absolutely fantastic. So she's under no illusions on that. And she turned around to him and said, "Anyway, it's all your fault, Brownie, because it was you that got me involved in the Conservatives in the first place." And she was an ex-mayor of Congleton town, and she did a fantastic job. And certainly all the Conservatives wish her very well for the election.
Today, Conservative Home Daily, which is obviously what it says on the tin, they've come out and asked the question. Paul Goodman, who I think most people respect as being pretty well informed, why on earth would young people who can't afford a home vote Conservative? And do you accept that as a problem, that the building record hasn't been great? I know it's been great in Congleton, but generally across the country, getting new homes built has not been delivered by the Conservatives. And do you see any validity in that? You've got a proper scrap on, haven't you?
I think we've got a really important example here in Congleton, where we can see the benefits of where new homes have been built. And granted, it's not been perfect, nothing is. But we've got things like Capital Walk, would the Market Quarter, would things like that be happening? Lion and Swan is a phenomenal example of a brilliant asset to have in a town centre. Would those things be happening if we hadn't seen the town growth? Probably not. I think there is a responsibility of local councils countrywide for them to deliver on the infrastructure that comes with development, and I think a lot of communities see a dissociation between that, and therefore they're reluctant to trust developers and things like that. I think most importantly, most of us know someone who will want a home that is probably different to the one they're living in at the moment. Whether that is they need to be, I think the red row sign on the way out of time says right sizers rather than downsizers, whether it's someone right sizing, whether it's first time buyers, whether it's someone who's having another child or whatever that might be. People see the benefits of having homes. They just need to make sure that the ones that are building near other people are the right ones for the community and are built in collaboration with the community. I'm not so sure that kind of putting the shutters down is necessarily the right approach personally, but it's about doing things right.
Can I just come back to you on that point, because I was heavily involved in the local plan 10, 12 years ago when we first put the bypass in for Congleton, right? And before that, we come out to consultation with the people of Congleton to say how many thousand houses are going to be built over a 20-year period. Yeah. We went out to public consultation. We took, more or less, we upped it by about 2,500, I think, from memory serves me correctly, from what the public ideally wanted. We went to the inspector. We got kicked out and they told us to put another 8,000 in. Right? So I think the planning law and the way that you actually set what number of houses you've got to build, you know, is controlled by planning, and that is a planning thing, and those number of houses were forced on Congleton then. When we then put the link road in, the link road through to Sandbach, that to fund it and generate it means you've got to attract investment, and then you attract investment by people developing the land inside it, and that's where the majority of the money comes from to pay for the road. So you don't get anything for nothing, but it's very difficult when times are hard, and let's face facts, over the last sort of 12 years, 10 years ago, times were very hard, and there was very little building activity throughout the country. Basically because people couldn't actually go and afford to buy the houses. I know people who've got land banks, I know developers who've got land banks for the next 20 years where they bought options on farmers' fields and things. They won't build them out unless they can sell them. Mm-hmm. And so I agree with Jack. I think half the problem was that we went through an era of building 4 and 5 houses when really we wanted 2 and 3 bedroomed houses, rather than 4 or 5 bedroomed houses, because that was where the market was. And I've seen that over the last 8-10 years, that if you like top end large properties, the number on an estate now is reduced considerably, and people have actually put in modifications to take some of those properties out and build affordable houses in their stead. No, yeah, it didn't really answer your question. No, enough houses haven't been built, but
to be fair, can I just make a point here? Some of my questions will sound to you as if I'm conservative bashing. I'm not. My job is just to ask a question. I think the public will answer. But I think you two have left something out. So a lot of these houses have been built. Didn't the Conservatives bring in a mortgage help scheme, or was that a Conservative idea?
It was. I mean, what I was just going to follow up is in terms of bringing it back to the very
that mortgage thing was a big thing, wasn't it?
Help to Buy, still big and still going, as far as I'm aware, and been a big catalyst for allowing a lot of people to get in the housing market. But I was just going to bring it back to the point with you saying...
You've got to go back to Margaret Thatcher and allowing council houses to be built. That made a massive difference to young people trying to get on the ladder and
get capital
and actually get capital together. So that's when it started. The ambition's been there. The delivery is part of the problem, and part of that's commercial.
And I was just going to say as well, in terms of from a local perspective, the home ownership position and building enough houses. Well, no, it's not right to drag the drawbridge out, but actually within Congleton, we've not, and actually it's something to be really proud of. The fact that with the pipeline of houses that we've got, I'm not from Congleton, but people who live here and are growing up here will be able to buy a house in Congleton and live in Congleton, and so many other towns in different areas that that this policy unfortunately is responding to aren't going to have that opportunity, and it's perhaps slightly short-sighted.
And of course, there is an elephant in the Conservative room at the moment, and he at the time of recording, he's in the jungle. His name is Matt Hancock.
Yeah.
And my question is, should this guy actually be in prison rather than the jungle after all the missteps he personally has made, which must make Liz Wardlaw's job harder, your job harder? Is he like a one-man demolition wrecking crew of Conservative ideals and hopes and aspirations?
Matt Hancock's unpopularity is a consequence of him cheating on his wife, I would say, primarily.
One of a few factors.
I think in terms of the response to the COVID pandemic, I definitely don't feel as though he should be in prison for that. Obviously, I'm quite happy.
Lots of PPE equipment didn't work. His mate down the pub got the contract for, or a company associated with his mate down the pub.
I feel as though that there's an important point here. So Matt Hancock is a former cabinet member. He's also occupied various different roles across government. We expect our politicians to have their fingers on the pulse of what's happening in society. We've never had a pandemic before. I hope we never have one again. All the people involved, we're trying to get people through it in a way, and in trailblazing in a way that no one's ever had to do it before. I expect those PPE contracts, there would have probably been 3, probably 4, 5, 6 people in the country who could have delivered on them. Now, they're major business owners and major deliverers within the health system. If the health secretary didn't know those people, would that not be a bigger problem? And would those cabinet members who don't know the bastions of industry within the UK, would that not be a bigger problem? I'm not saying everything was done right within the pandemic. It clearly wasn't, and there's things to be answered for. I do genuinely believe Matt Hancock did his best.
So pouring COVID sufferers into care homes wasn't the greatest thing, was it?
No, but what I'm saying is it probably... I don't believe that it was done with malice, and I genuinely believe he was doing his best to do something in not ideal circumstances.
David, your view of what I described as elephant in the Conservative room?
I'm not sure he's... well, certainly from the way he's behaving in the jungle, he's not an elephant, is he? He's not making that much noise going through the bush. But yeah, I think we've heard lots about what happened during COVID, and the report will come out and we'll see it all. Those guys and gals that were there doing it were put in a position, and they got to make a call, and they got to do things. I don't for 1 minute think they were doing it for backhanders or anything that people speculate around that. They were doing it with the best information they got, and they made the best decisions they felt they could at the time. Hindsight is a wonderful thing. We all look back and think, crikey, if only I'd have known that now, I would have made a different decision. So I think for me, I mean, Jack said, yes, there is a lot, massive upset in terms of, the reason why he actually resigned and left, and the emotional trauma it caused his family, and I think that resonates with a lot of people. And you could, how many people has that happened to this year? There'll be a lot, but it doesn't make it right. I think for me, in going to the jungle doesn't sit comfortable with me.
Yeah, same.
Right. So I think from that point of view, I think if he wants to right his wrongs, he needs to get his in gear, get back to the UK, and look after his constituents, and try and build that up.
I'm sure that Liz Wardlaw hopes she's looking after constituents' interests come December the 2nd. And okay, let's finish on a positive note. Town Council elections in May. Cheshire East Council elections in May. What do you predict will happen with the Conservatives in those 2 elections?
I think it's really, it's the most overused quote in life or politics or whatever, but a week's a long time in politics. What we can expect to happen in the polls between now and then will inevitably have a huge effect on what happens here locally. We're not naive enough to think that if we went to the polls today, we'd probably have a tricky day, wouldn't we?
Well, I'm not sure how tricky it'll be, or whether... Yeah, well, you never know. You'll still get some Conservatives who'll get in, and there are still a lot of Conservatives around in Congleton. But you see, the thing that I found is that, in the last 2.5 years I've been on Cheshire East Council, all the independents vote with Labour. There are not many true independents. If you have an independent vote at Cheshire East, it will be a Labour vote, because they'll do a coalition again if they get enough seats and they can't hold their own.
Okay.
So I would just say, come on.
I've heard all your views. By the way, it's been a cracking interview. Thank you both for your contribution to it. Will the Conservatives win Congleton Town Council? Will the Conservatives win Cheshire East Council?
Well, we're going to do everything we can to show people that we're the right box to put their vote, regardless of what they see, what's happening nationally. And what we're going to do is put the issues on the ground locally first, and people are going to hopefully see that we're the right people to put their trust in.
Dave, will you win?
I hope so. Well, I'm talking about me personally.
No, I'm
now,
talking about Conservatives.
about
we take for granted.
About the Conservatives. I think you know, if you look at the last election when when the town council was out, it was a difficult time for the Conservatives then, and we got hit pretty hard. And maybe there was a bit of complacency there. This year we won't be complacent. This year we're out to win it, and to win it in a big way.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for a cracking start to the second series of Tim's Talk-In. Thank you and good luck. Bye.